Well, tonight on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about them folks admitting something that they hate to admit. Now, recently, they had a poll that was done by YouGov, and they had polled people on the right or Donald Trump voters. And a lot of his voters had believed, according to this poll, that racism against white folks have become a bigger problem than racism against Black Americans. Now, on the surface, you would just hear that and say, what kind of alternate reality or twilight zone these people are living in? What would even possess them to even say some crap like that? We live in a system of a white supremacy. They came up with the term white supremacy. They run everything. They control everything. They in everybody's country trying to push their will upon them. They're still taking resources, doing this, doing that. If they don't like what you're doing, they try to destabilize your country. Like, what are you talking about that all of a sudden there's a problem against them? But you got to understand, you got to read between the lines. So let's continue. Let's do our homework a little bit, and we're going to go in on that. So let's say the survey of about 1,638 U.S. adults was conducted from July 13th to 17th showed that among the 2020 Trump voters, 62% say that racism against Black Americans is a problem today. It said while 73% say that racism against white Americans is a problem. So ask how much of a problem racism currently is. Just 19% of Trump voters describe racism against Black Americans as a big problem, quote unquote. It said twice as many, 37% say racism against white Americans is a big problem. Let's say Trump voters and self-identified Republicans overlapping, but not identical cohorts, are the only demographic groups identified by YouGov, and say who are more likely to say racism against white Americans is a problem than to say the same about racism against Black Americans. And say a majority, 51% of white Americans, for instance, think racism against people who look like them is a problem. And say, but overall, is that far more white Americans, 72% say racism against Black Americans is a problem. But let's get to the people who's saying that quote unquote racism against them is a big problem. What are they actually saying, ladies and gentlemen? Now, don't listen to the words I told you at first. Let's really listen to what they mean racism is for them. We live in a time period where they can't get away with what their forefathers got away with. See, they can't get away with what they was getting away with in the 1960s, in the 1950s. We don't have to go all the way back to the slavery days. We can just go back that far, right? One point in time in this country, they can call you whatever word they want to call you, and nothing would happen to them. At one point in time in this country, they can beat you, they can have you on a rope, they can do whatever they want to do, and nothing would happen to them. They're going by their day like it's, hey, it's just one of them things. They were so used to doing that to Black folks, that was like a pastime. On the weekends when they were off of work, they'll go figure out ways to terrorize Black people. And when you hear them saying, oh, I miss the good old days, that's what they miss. They don't say the good old days like, oh, well, food was cheaper, cars were cheaper. Ooh, I can buy a house for $7,000. You know, I've seen them kind of advertisements. That's interesting to see that, right? They're not talking about that. No, they're talking about I could be a white supremacist with no pushback. I don't have to worry about what I say. You understand? Them guarding their words feels like oppression to them because they have been the only group of people in America who has been truly free to say whatever they want for a long time. So for them not to go out and just say the N-word to you or anytime they feel like saying it, that feels oppressive to them. Because in their house, they say that about us all the time, right? We know that. I told you by the age of 2, they teaching their kid that word. Why? Because either they teach it to them directly or they learn it indirectly because it's always been said in their house. Okay? That's why you see kids go to daycare from their community, 2, 3, 4, and they saying the N-word. That child didn't come out the womb saying that. That child heard that in their house. So they pass down anti-Black racism as part of their cultural identity. So when you are denying them the practice of anti-Black racism, You're literally oppressing them because that's part of their cultural identity that they chose. So to them, because I can't say the N-word to you whenever I want, or it's going to be a consequence, that's oppressive to me. I feel oppressed. That's racism against me because I can't say what I want to you. I can't. It feels horrible. I can't do that. I long for the days that I wish I could have freedom of speech, and freedom of speech for them is to say the most vile things and nothing happens to them. You have to understand, like the brother that recently was out there, I think in Georgia, or whatever, was fishing and filming, and that Karen got fired. For them, that's oppression. That's racism to them. Because now they're losing things behind treating you that way. This woman lost her job. Then the guy come copping pleas to the brother, talking about, oh, she lost her job. She got a big mortgage. Who cares? A lot of people got big mortgages. If you got a big mortgage, you stay behind in the car and go to your house and work your job. See, everything in life is a choice. See, when you're a white supremacist, you feel that I should be able to just do and say whatever I want and it should be no consequence. But anytime black folks had something to say, it was always a consequence, even when we wasn't doing anything. And at one point in time in history, if a black person looked at a white person in the eye, it could have been a consequence. So look what kind of oppression that we had to live under. And now you living under a time where it's actually becoming some equal justice now. And not because you was nice and say, oh, well, I just want to make, no. We made that happen. We made it happen. One thing about black folk, don't you ever let them tell you, well, we gave you freedom. Well, we did this. You didn't do crap. Because if we just sat down and waited on you, we'd still be on the plantation. The reason why we off the plantation, we was turning up so much in these slave revolts that eventually everything's going to come to a head. You think we're going to stay in slavery forever? I mean, come on now. You look all the way up to the civil rights movement. They had to concede because black folks was turning up. Black folks was having uprisings all over this country. You got to understand, after Dr. King was brutally assassinated, this country turned on its head, and they really thought America was going to go down how much black folks was turning up after Dr. King died. They had to give that civil rights bill and that Fair Housing Act to get black people to go from out in the streets. And you have to understand, we had a lot of brothers coming back from Vietnam, so they had all these guerrilla war tactics. All these different things was happening with brothers and sisters out here. They felt like they had nothing to lose. And one thing is dangerous for any people is to know somebody don't have nothing to lose. When a person feel like, I don't care if I live or die, it is what it is. That's a dangerous individual. Because when a person don't live or die, they willing to do anything. Because they say, I ain't gonna live anyway, so it is what it is. I might go out with a bang. That's very dangerous to the white supremacists for black people to be in that mindset. And that was the mindset that black folks were in. So they had to concede to get black folks to calm down, to get black folks to say, okay, maybe I can believe in this thing called America a little bit. That's why they did that. They did not do that because they feel so bad about the treatment of black people. They didn't do it for that reason. So you have the lady that lost her job, and the minute that lost their job, lost their business for not even saying the N-word. Because that lady with the fishing, she didn't say no N-word to that dude. But even their approaches with racism, that's the thing. They don't have to say no N-word. They could come up to you, well, what are you doing here? Do you live here? Like, did you pay to be here? Everyone knows what you're doing. So it's not that you even saying anything that has a racial slur attached to it. You've done it so much. And then like the dude that told the brother, well, why y'all always filming? You know why we always filming? And we're going to continue to film day in and day out. We're going to film because hell, y'all filming all the time. You're filming on the highways. You're filming in the parks. You're filming in businesses. You're filming everywhere. You got traffic light cameras. Everybody's being filmed. So what's the problem? The problem is the cell phone camera has been an agent of justice for the black man and woman of America. The reason why we have to film is because two reasons. One, if it's our word against yours, they're going to immediately just take your word and dismiss ours. This phone right here, when we say this racial issue happened, I got the video evidence. I'm going to post it on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, whatever. You can't deny it at that point. So it throws away your white supremacist preference in the system where your word is always going to be believed over a black person. Number two, the reason why we have to film is because we need to make sure to get out internationally the human rights violations that white supremacy commits against black America. If we don't have it on film, then it didn't happen. That's the way people view it these days. So what we have to do is when you coming up to us, asking us, do we live here? Immediately we go say, oh, now say that you say that I live here. We have to do that and post that. And your companies don't want to be attached to you. The reason why they don't want to be attached to you, not that they just so self-righteous and they don't agree with you, but the fact is black folks spend a lot of money in this country. Black folks spend over $1 trillion a year. And if a corporation sides with people like you constantly, then guess what happens with black folk? Oh, we're not going to shop with you. We're not going to buy with you. We're not going to get your services or whatever the case may be. We're not going to do it because obviously you don't like black folk and nobody want to lose the black dollar. I don't care what it is. Corporations will cutthroat anybody. Especially when they red-handed caught, they will let go any of you because they don't want to lose the black dollar. None of these corporations do. So you feel because your corporations don't want to lose the black dollar, you can't say whatever you want to say to us like you used to, or can't harass us like you used to. And now you're losing your job, your business, nobody want to mess with you, even in your own community, because they like, you know how your community is very individualistic. They're like, hey, forget you. I'm not messing my bag up with black people. Yeah, listen, you know good and well the rules. This is what they tell each other. You know the rules. We say that behind closed doors. We don't say that in public. I mean, like, come on, you know better than that. And if you say it publicly, I'm going to have to disavow you because you broke the rule, the white supremacist code. Say it behind closed doors. Don't say it publicly. You say it publicly, we don't know you. We will fire you. That's been the rule. So because you're having a consequence for your mouth, or a consequence for your actions, this is why you feel it is a big problem. Well, guess what? Let me break some more news to you. It's about to come an even bigger problem for you, okay? Because not only black people, but even these other groups, they also calling you out now. And usually what we do, everybody else follows. So if we filming, everybody else gonna film. Everybody else gonna upload you. And now you feel this. Well, why only us? Other people are doing it. You're not the only one because we will film anybody who's doing it. We don't care. We have a no nonsense policy when it comes to the way we're treated. For hundreds and hundreds of years, the white supremacists have treated us any old way. And we surely not going to let nobody else follow behind you, even if they got some sort of skin color to them, treat us any kind of way. Look at Yateen Chu. Remember her? She got the smoke. She isn't a white person. She was called a white supremacist. Why? Because she was assisting white supremacy and trying to harm black people. So she was getting the smoke and she was shocked that she got it. I covered that video on our the Black Congregation channel. You can go check it out. She was so shocked that everybody came at her like that. And she's Asian. If a person is Hispanic and they get caught doing something, they get in the smoke. If the person's an Arab, Native American, they get in the smoke. Even another black person getting the smoke too. Everybody gonna get it. Anybody that talk like you, side with you, or move like you, they gonna get it. My last podcast, I was coming at a black Nigerian immigrant. He got the smoke. Like, nobody's immune. One thing we're not doing from this day on, we're just not putting up with it. The only way you respect yourselves is you don't put up with any kind of anti-black racism, no matter where it comes from. For example, the Jewish community. They don't put up with nobody talking about them, talking down about the Holocaust, etc. The moment you say something, the ADL is on your butt. And I always said in many of my videos, I respect the Jewish community for that. I really do. I say, and we need to be just like the Jewish community times 1,000 because of what happened to us during slavery. The Holocaust didn't even happen here in America. It happened in Germany. It was a bad thing that happened. But we was enslaved in America a lot longer than the Holocaust. So this is why I say that we should be 1,000 times more like that than even the Jewish community is. And the Jewish community always say, hey, never again. I agree with them. And we should say that times 1,000. Never again. Never again. We're going to sit up here and just allow you or anybody to be having anti-black racism because we know exactly where they go to. First, it starts off with words, different actions, and we don't stop it. We'll end up back in slavery. We know your history. You still have a loophole in the 13th Amendment to put black people back in slavery through prison. You over-police and criminalize our people in low-income areas because you specifically target low-income areas because they can't fight you legally in court. They can't pay for lawyers. They can't do any of that. And so they're going to be a one to plead out a case a lot quicker than say somebody's parents who's making $100,000, $200,000 a year and a black parent who could pay for a lawyer and fight a case. Let's call it what it is. You don't see our 6 and 7 figure black families talking about the police always harassing them because they don't live in those areas, to be honest with you. And the police know who going in and out of a lot of these places. They see the black people there. They do. And they know, oh, these black people, they probably got this, one, and the third. So let me leave them alone. Because the majority of black people aren't criminals. Not at all. But the day has come and is going to continue to come. And then also, you talking about against you, y'all have to understand the world now is getting tired. The world is calling them out too. It's not just black America. It's the world. The world don't want to deal with them too much anymore. Why? Because every time they come around them, they come with some racism. Oh, you listen to what I tell you to do because I'm the folks. And you got Asians saying, nah, man, especially Chinese, like, nah, I'm good with that. You got Africans saying the same thing, like, nah. Then, you want to go to the African continent and push LGBT. You want to just push whatever you think your lifestyle should be on other people. And people are rejecting that. And for you, because they're rejecting you and anything else to go along with you, in your mind, that's racism against you. So if that's what you define what racism is, you really need to read a dictionary. Also read a couple of books. I know a lot of you don't like to read books. I get it. You don't. You believe anything that's being told to you on Fox News Channel or Newsmax or OAN or anything else that you're watching. But gone are the days of your forefathers. You will never get it back. I know you wish. Listen, I don't care if Donald Trump gets in there tomorrow. You would never get it back, what you had in the 1950s or 60s. You could try to roll back affirmative action. You could try to roll back all the voting rights. You can roll back the Civil Rights Act. You can roll back anything that you want to roll back. But I promise you, it's still not going to be what you think it's going to be if you roll all that back. It's not. And even Donald Trump is not silly enough to push things like that. He's not silly. He know better. Trump didn't get to where he was at by being an idiot. He'll gaslight y'all and let y'all and say things to y'all to give y'all red meat so y'all can come vote for him. But then when Trump get in office, he don't do that sort of stuff that he's talking on the campaign trail. He talked about immigration, and listen, I agree with a lot of this stuff with immigration, but even he couldn't solve the immigration issue because it's too wide open. The Republicans should have changed the laws, asylum laws. But Republicans not going to do that because they benefit from people coming in on low-skilled labor. They benefit from that. A lot of Republican businesses, I'm in Texas, hire people who don't have citizenship that come from Latin American countries. And they're everywhere working. And they are so integrated into the Texas economy that you really can't I'm going to kick them out. No, you really can't. Because you kick them out you talk about kicking them out like that. Because all that theater they doing about, now you can maybe stop more from coming in. You say, hey, we got enough, we good. But they have enough here where they're so integrated that if they were to say we're not working no more, they will shut down the economy. So all that talk that y'all do about immigration and all that, That's not stopping. Biden and them has just imported a bunch of people in. In other words, you're not going to have it like that no more. It's not. It's going to be more people here in this country that don't look like you, period. Some going to side with you, but then eventually, I'm going to tell you what's about to happen. They're going to wise up eventually and look at their numbers and look at you, and they're going to start looking and say, why are we siding with them for? They say, wait a minute, we got enough people here. We got our kids here now. They can't kick them out. So yeah, we about to start taking over some politics, and we about to start doing this and that and the third. And one thing about these other groups, they're not going to look out for you. They're not. Them other groups are gaming y'all. The only people that actually would probably agree with you a little bit more would be Black Americans, actually. But you're against us, and you're going to see what happens to you. You talking about us as a problem. You about to see how them other groups going to be, because they having their kids first and second generation, and you can't kick them out like you can kick out their parents. You understand? And they gonna have something for you too, these other groups. Because one thing about these other groups, they're not loyal to anything. If they're not loyal to their homeland, they're definitely not gonna be loyal to you. They just playing the game with you, and I see it. I've talked to them, and they've told me, other groups have told me they certain games they play to get things out of y'all. And look, hey, I mean, you hustling, hustle them. I ain't tripping on it. Only thing I say is, in the midst of your hustle, leave us alone as Black America. Don't try to join with them and pile on. Then you'll get some trinkets. No, because you're going to create an enemy you don't want with Black America. Because we're not putting up with your crap. So get your bag. I don't care. Just leave us out of it. But them days of you just doing anything you want to people, and sure, you can still do some things because you got some control. You still could not give us, the proper water supply like you're doing. And, you could still try to, sabotage our business and all that. But, really, you're on the tail end of your rule, to be honest with you. You're on the tail end, and you know it. Listen, you know it because you can't reproduce even globally. You can't. That's an issue for you. You know something's wrong, that how hot the sun has been, and there's no relief from it. And the sun is going to get hotter and hotter and hotter. Now, children of the sun, like myself and other Black people throughout the world, and maybe some even other groups who could deal with the sun, they'll be okay. The sun can literally come right next door to the earth. We'll be okay. But the only thing I can say, just to, I'm just being a human being, is maybe if you can't deal with those issues, because listen, even sunscreens coming out is giving them cancer. They say it's more benzene in those sunscreens, or the fake melanin that they're putting on to be out in the sun. The only thing I can say is take pandemic measures. During the pandemic, everybody was locked down. So I'd say to protect yourself, just lock down. And only go out, when the sun go down. I don't think that I could suggest to you. I say, but, hey, it's climate. They talking about climate change is a problem. It's a problem for you. It's not a problem for me. I go in the sun all day long and I'm good. They got Black people out here talking about, oh, you need to put on sunscreen and this and that and the third. I'm like, what? I say, then they have come out and say all them chemicals that's in that stuff. And the only first time I ever heard a Black person tell me, we need sunscreen too. Why? Why do we need sunscreen? For what? Because, the harmful rays of the sun been beating on Black folks for thousands of years. Our ancestors was enslaved in this land, working in the sun, picking cotton. And they lived up over 100, a lot of them, 90 to 100. And they were slaves, picking cotton, doing all the work for the folks. If it was so bad for us to be out there, most of us wouldn't be alive, but they would all died off because they're working out there in the sun all day. If they'd have been getting cancers or whatever the case may be, because, skin cancer because of the sun. Come on now, how did our ancestors survive? All those years picking cotton, sharecropping, all different work that they did in the sun. How did they survive? No, God has blessed us to be children of the sun because of our melanin. This is why they want to try to harvest our melanin and trying to figure out ways that they can get it. This is also, and I've heard this said many times, why there's a push for them to have children with Black people, because they won't survive unless they have children with Black people, because they need Black people's melanin. And since you kind of hearing what I'm saying, that's why you have to thoroughly reject those relationships, because they need your melanin to survive. If you're so superior and you said you've been superior forever, you said you are superior. What shows how superior you are to the sun? I told any of them, I say, look, if you really want to show me how superior you are, you go in the sun. Me and you can go in the sun with nothing on, no lotion, no nothing. Let's just go in the sun all day. We'll make sure we got enough, be hydrated, electrolytes and stuff like that. Hey, let's go in the sun. Let's just see which one of us, how we would look in the end. But I promise you this, one of us could have 3rd or 4th degree burns, and I know it's not going to be me. So, but ladies and gentlemen, I mean, hey, look, America's changing, and they're having a hard time with that. They're having a hard time with the change coming up in America. Only thing I can say to you is embrace change. Change happens. Embrace it. Listen, as Black Americans, we had to embrace a lot of change. Some for the good, some for the bad. But we had to embrace a lot of change. You have not been progressive for the past 500 years, and this is why you're having a hard time with the change. So either, get on board with the change, or, you can go, down kicking and screaming. But the days are gone when you can just do anything you want with no pushback. You pull a George Floyd, an uprising is going to happen. It's just that simple. You call us the N-word and the other names, you may lose your job. You may lose your business. You may lose your house because you can't pay for it no more. Somebody may, tap you on your jaw a little bit. Something like it could be a whole lot of things that could possibly happen to you, right? So just all you have to do is just be a good human being, respect everybody, right? If you feel in your heart, oh, I don't like him here, what is he doing here? Push down the temptation of being a white supremacist and just go home. Just go home. Think about your job. Think about it. Is it worth losing your job telling that Black person something? Especially when they're filming you? Is it worth all that? Just think about it. It's not worth losing your job. It's not worth losing your business. I'm telling you, I would want nobody to lose their job or business. But you making choices. And if white supremacy is more important to you than your food and your household, then hey, that's you committed to the cause. But the days are gone where you can just do anything you want to do and Black people don't push back or don't say anything. And if that's oppression to you, then it is what it is. But it's definitely not racism. Not no way, shape, and form. But you never really been the sharpest knife in the drawer. I mean, Black people had to build the country and innovate the country for you. So, I mean, I understand the legacy of not really having to be the sharpest knife in the drawer. But a new day is here. Embrace it, because we surely will.